The trembling, silence-ethed crowd waited, rows of eyes stretched across the dim theater, holding their breath. The spotlight glowed gently on the stage. It was warm and quiet and expectant. And in that silence stood Ana de Armas. Her hands trembled. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She had practiced these lines for weeks. The mirror in her trailer had heard them over and over. Her voice had echoed through the rehearsal hall with confidence. But now her throat was dry, her chest tight. Ana couldn't move. Somewhere in the shadows beyond the light, a camera blinked red. This wasn't a private rehearsal. This was the live show. Opening night. One take. People waited. The co-stars watched from the wings. The director shifted nervously in his seat. Ana blinked. Her mind was blank. She saw faces, blurred and still, watching her, judging her, and in the second row, sitting quietly and unseen by most, Keanu Reeves. Noticed he didn't speak, not yet. His hands rested calmly on his lap. He leaned forward just a little. Something in his eyes changed. Not panic, not pity, just quiet understanding. Ana opened her mouth again. Nothing came. Her lower lip shook. Her shoulders tensed. One tear began to form, but she blinked it back fast. "Say something." A voice whispered from backstage. "Just go." Someone else muttered, but she was frozen. Keanu stood. The audience turned their heads. Some gasped. He walked slowly toward the stage. The director leaned forward, unsure whether to stop him or not. The producer in the back held his headset and said, "What's happening? What's Keanu doing?" But Keanu didn't stop. He stepped onto the stage with calm grace. The light shifted. Now it hit both of them. Ana looked at him surprised, confused, vulnerable. He didn't take a mic. He didn't say anything. Instead, he held out his hand. Ana looked at it for a second. Her fingers hovered, unsure. Then she took it. The silence in the theater changed. It was no longer heavy with judgment. It became something soft. Something alive. Keanu gave her hand the gentlest squeeze. Just once. His eyes told her, "You're not alone." Ana's throat loosened. Her shoulders dropped just a little. He leaned in close and whispered so only she could hear, "We all freeze. But that doesn't mean we fail. Just breathe. Say the first word. I'm right here." His voice wasn't dramatic. It wasn't part of any script. It was real. Ana closed her eyes for a moment, and then she spoke. Her first word came out small, shaky but true. The second word was steadier. The third carried emotion. Soon, she wasn't frozen anymore. She was flying. Keanu let go of her hand slowly and stepped back. He didn't wait for applause. He didn't nod or bow, just returned to his seat, quiet as before. Ana continued. The scene unfolded. It's not as it had been rehearsed, but deeper. More honest. The crowd listened. Fully present, the moment that had almost collapsed had transformed into something unforgettable. After the show, backstage was a storm of voices. What just happened? Was that planned? He saved her. Swear he saved her. Ana sat quietly in her dressing room, holding a small towel, still catching her breath. Her face was flushed, but she wasn't crying. Not anymore. Keanu knocked gently before stepping in. He didn't say anything right away. He just waited. Ana looked at him. Her voice was soft. "I thought I ruined everything." Keanu shook his head. "You reminded them that you're human, and then you showed them your strength." She laughed a little, nervous and grateful. "How did you know what to do?" "I didn't," he said. "I just didn't want you to stand there alone." That night, the clip went viral. Not the performance itself, but the moment he held her hand. People shared it. They wrote things like, "This is what support looks like." He didn't try to fix her. He just stood beside her. Real strength is silent. Some critics called the performance the most emotional scene of the year. Not for its perfection, but for its rawness. Ana didn't read the comments that night. She just sat by her window, sipping tea, staring at the moon, and smiling because she had faced silence. She had faced fear, and someone had reminded her. She didn't have to face it alone, but this was only the beginning. What came next would test both of them, in ways they never expected. Because fame isn't always gentle, and the world sometimes forgets the line between story and truth. The world starts whispering some morning after the show. Anna woke up to a phone buzzing non-stop. Her hands reached out from under the soft blanket, fingers numbed from sleep. She looked at the screen. Over 50 missed calls, hundreds of unread messages. Social media had exploded overnight. Clips from the stage moment were everywhere. People had added soft music under it, slowed the frame, zoomed in on the way Keanu held her hand. Hashtags were trending. Keanu and Anna hashtag that moment. Hashtag this is how you help the press had given it names. The freeze in the hand, one paper said. Another called it the most human moment ever seen on stage. But not everyone was kind. Some comments were full of doubt. Was that real? Maybe it was just a stunt. She's an actress. Maybe she faked it for attention. Anna closed her phone. Her breath caught in her chest. Keanu wasn't online. He was already walking into a quiet cafe down the street, wearing an old brown coat and a beanie. No one noticed him right away. He sat by the window, ordered black coffee, and opened a small book of poetry he carried around like a secret. He didn't care about the buzz. He only cared that Anna was okay, but he could sense what was coming. Fame had a way of twisting things. Moments meant to be private became public property. Quiet gestures were often misread. He took a sip of his coffee and sighed. Anna finally stepped out of her apartment that afternoon. Sunglasses on, hoodie pulled up. Her driver opened the car door. But before she could get in, 2 people stepped forward with cameras. Anna, how are you feeling today? Was that moment with Keanu planned? Are you too? Her head and said nothing. On set, things were different. People stared longer. They whispered when she passed. Even the director seemed unsure how to speak to her. She was no longer just Anna. She had become that moment. Keanu arrived late to rehearsal on purpose. He didn't want her to feel more pressure because of him. But when their eyes met, there was a strange silence between them. It's not cold, just heavy. He gave her a soft nod. She returned it. Barely. The producer called them both into a side room. We need to talk about last night. Odd. Her breath. You two broke the internet, the producer added, half smiling, half nervous. And now the studio wants to use that. More scenes together. It's more promotion, interviews, maybe even a special behind-the-scenes clip. Anna looked at the ground. Keanu spoke first. It wasn't a show. I know, the producer said. But people are moved by it. We just want to lean in. Yana's voice was soft. Can I just breathe first? The producer paused. Of course, just think about it. This could open doors for both of you. They left the room in silence. That night, Anna sat on the rooftop of her apartment building, knees pulled close to her chest. She looked out at the lights of the city. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voice message. From her mother, Mia. I saw what happened. I was so proud, I cried. It's not because you froze, but because you stood up again. And because someone stood with you. Anna's eyes filled with tears. She didn't cry often, but this one came gentle and warm. The next day on set, a new scene was scheduled. A quiet scene between their characters. No action, just emotion. Anna stood on her mark. Her lines were simple, but deep. But as soon as the camera rolled, something in her froze again. It's not as strong as before, but enough to make her voice shake. And Keanu, who was standing just off camera, stepped into frame before the director even called cut. He didn't take her hand this time. He just placed a chair next to hers and sat down quietly. We're not acting, he whispered. As we're just being. Anna took a deep breath. She smiled. Okay, she whispered back. They tried again. This time. The words flowed like water in the editing room later. The director leaned back in his chair. This wasn't the script, he said. Wrote. Afterward, Anna approached Keanu outside the studio. The sun was setting. The light was soft. Why are you always there? She asked gently. He looked at her for a moment, then replied, Because someone once did that for me, and I never forgot. Who? She asked. He didn't answer. He just smiled. But that night, as Anna walked back to her apartment, she noticed something strange. A man in a dark jacket was standing across the street, holding a camera. He had followed her 3 blocks, and in his hand, she saw something even worse printed. Photos. One of them showed her and Keanu backstage, close. Too close. The kind of photo that could ruin something before it even starts. The price of Leitna didn't go home that night. She kept walking, street after street. She moved through the quiet city like a shadow. Her hood was up, her heart beating fast. Every now and then, she looked behind her, but the man was gone. The camera was gone. Yet something heavy still followed her. Not footsteps, but fear. When she finally reached her friend's apartment, she didn't ring the bell right away. She just stood there, staring at the door, fists clenched inside her. Sleeves. She wanted to scream. She wanted to hide. But more than anything, she wanted to feel safe again. Her friend let her in. Didn't ask too many questions, just handed her a blanket and made her tea. They sat on the couch in silence. The clock ticked. The steam from the cup curled into the air like a soft whisper. After a while, Anna spoke. They took photos, she said quietly. Of what? Me and Keanu backstage. It looked like something else. Her friend tilted her head. Was it something else? Anna's voice dropped. I don't know. The next morning, Keanu sat on the floor of his apartment, legs crossed, trying to meditate. He breathed in slowly, then out. But the silence wasn't calm. His mind raced with questions. Why did Anna seem distant yesterday? Had he crossed a line? Was the moment on stage too much? He opened his eyes. His phone buzzed. A message. Not from Anna. It was from his agent. Have you seen the photo? He opened the link. It was already on a gossip site. The photo was grainy, but clear enough. Anna's eyes were red from crying. Keanu's hand rested gently on her shoulder. His face, close to hers, the headline read, What really happened behind the curtain? The comments were brutal. Some called it beautiful. Others called it fake. Few said things that stung. He's too old for her. She's just using him for attention. They're playing with emotions to sell tickets. Keanu put the phone down. His hand ran through his hair. He whispered softly, Not again. Later that day, Anna returned to set. She kept her head low. Her chest felt tight. She hadn't spoken to Keanu since the picture went public. When he saw her across the hallway, their eyes met. Neither smiled, but he walked over. Hey, he said, voice soft. Hi. He waited. You okay? Anna nodded. No. They stood in the quiet hallway for a moment. Distant voices echoed from the stage area. Keanu leaned closer. They're going to say things, Anna. Twist everything. That's what they do. But we know the truth. Anna looked up at him. Her eyes filled with emotion. Do we? He paused, then nodded. Yes, we do. The director called them in early. They were scheduled to film a delicate scene. Something soft, emotional, it required. Full trust between actors. But the tension between Anna and Keanu now felt different. Not cold, just careful. As the scene began, Anna couldn't find her rhythm. The director called, Cut. They tried again. Still, it didn't work. Finally, the director walked up and said, You two need to talk. Whatever it is, fix it. This scene won't work unless you're fully there for each other. Anna nodded, eyes cast downward. Keanu remained silent. They left the set together and sat on a bench just outside the studio. Anna finally spoke first. Why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Keanu looked straight ahead. Maybe it needs to fall a little, so something real can grow. Anna shook her head. That photo people are judging everything. I don't know what's true anymore. He turned to her gently. What happened? On stage, that was real. And this moment now? This is real too. Anna stared at him. Do you think we made a mistake? She asked. Keanu gave the smallest smile. No. We showed people something honest. Some people hate honesty. Others need it. What if we lose everything because of it? Then we lose it together. Anna looked away. Her heart didn't feel heavy anymore. It's just full. The next day they returned to set. The same emotional scene. Same lines. Same setting. But something was different this time. Anna didn't act. She lived the moment. Her voice carried truth. Her tears were real, not forced. And when Keanu reached out in the scene to hold her hand, it didn't feel scripted. It felt like breathing when the director finally said, "Cut." Everyone in the room stayed silent. No one moved. And then, applause. Not loud, not forced, just quiet. Slow claps from crew members who had seen something rare. Afterward, Anna sat. Alone backstage, sipping water, Keanu walked over. Sat beside her. You were brave, he said. She smiled. You helped me be. They didn't need to say more, but then her phone buzzed. Another message. Another photo, but this one was worse. It showed them leaving the studio. Last week zoomed in, twisted, with a caption that said, Anna caught leaving Keanu's place. Secret romance confirmed. Anna's hands shook. They won't stop, she whispered. Keanu looked at the photo. He didn't say anything, but in his eyes, there was a calm strength, a silent promise forming. He wasn't going to let this destroy, or not like it almost destroyed him once. When silence becomes loud next morning, Anna's name was everywhere. News sites, tabloids, celebrity blogs. Not because of her work. Instead, the headlines screamed, Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves caught. In secret relationship, late-night visits and hand-holding what's really going on behind the scenes.
Ow.
Anna sat on the floor of her kitchen, her back against the fridge. Her hands held her phone. But her heart couldn't hold the weight. She had worked so hard to be seen for her art, for her truth, for her strength. And now all they wanted to talk about was her hand in his. Keanu sat in his apartment, reading the same headlines. But he wasn't angry, he was sad. Sad that kindness had become a scandal. Sad that people had turned a moment of support into something cheap. His phone rang. It was his manager. This is getting big, the voice said. You need to make a statement. About what? Keanu asked calmly. About the photo. About Anna. About your relationship. Keanu paused, then answered quietly. My relationship with Anna is one of respect. No statement will explain that better than how we treat each other. The line was quiet for a moment. Keanu, people want more than that. Then they'll have to learn to want less. He hung up. Anna didn't leave her apartment for 2 days. Calls came in. Messages came in. Her agent wanted interviews. Producers wanted damage control. His friends wanted gossip, but she didn't want anything. She just wanted peace. On the 3rd day, she walked quietly to the studio. No makeup, no bodyguard, just herself. The receptionist froze when she saw her. Anna, are you okay? Anna didn't answer. She walked to the rehearsal room and opened the door. Inside. The crew had paused everything. They were watching a replay of the emotional scene she and Keanu had filmed. Anna had watched it with them. She watched herself shaking, then steady. She watched Keanu still, present, kind, and suddenly. The noise faded. In that moment she remembered why she started, why she acted, why she gave herself 2 stories. Not for fame, not for followers, but for connection. For truth. Keanu entered the room minutes later. He saw her, and without a word, walked up and stood beside her. They watched the last seconds of the scene again. Then the screen faded to black. No, one clapped. They didn't need to. After rehearsal, Anna turned to him. They won't stop, will they? Keanu shook his head. No, but neither will we. I want to say something, Anna whispered. Then say it. The next day, Anna sat alone in a quiet room with one camera. No lights. No makeup. She looked straight into the lens. People are talking about a picture, she said softly. They're asking questions. They're guessing stories. But here's my story. I froze. and someone stood beside me without asking for anything. That's not romance. That's kindness. And we need more of it. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. I'm not ashamed of being human, of being vulnerable. I'm proud that I got back up. And if someone wants to turn that into gossip, let them. I'll keep choosing truth. She turned off the camera herself. And for the first time in days, she felt free. The video went viral within hours. People across the world shared it. Some called her brave. Some called her dramatic. Some still doubted. But something strange happened. A young actress posted a comment. I froze once too. No one helped me. Thank you for speaking. Another girl wrote. I saw myself in your silence. Thank you. More followed. Hundreds, then thousands. Suddenly, the story wasn't about a photo anymore. It was about fear, about strength, about standing again. Keanu watched her video from his hotel room. He didn't smile. He didn't cry. He just whispered, well done. On set the next week, something had changed. Not in the cameras, not in the scripts, but in the people crew members looked at Anna differently. Not as a rumor, but as a fighter. A young lighting assistant approached her between scenes. I wanted to say, I saw what you said online. It helped me talk to my sister. She's been scared for a long time. Thank you. Anna's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and hugged the girl. No words, just warmth. That evening, as the sun dipped low behind the hills, Keanu found Anna sitting on the studio steps. He handed her a paper cup of warm tea. They sat in silence. After a while, he spoke. You changed the story. No, Anna replied. I just told the truth. Keanu nodded. Same thing. She turned to him. Do you ever wish you weren't famous? Keanu took a long sip of tea. Every day, but you stay. Because sometimes, you can use the light they shine on you to help someone else find their way. Anna looked down at her hands. Thank you for standing with me. He smiled. Always. But just when it felt like things were healing, just when the noise started to fade, a letter arrived at Anna's apartment. No return address, just her name in shaky handwriting. Inside it were 3 photos, new ones, taken through a window, of her alone, of her crying, of her sleeping, and a note. You belong to the world now. Eyes in the dark, Anna dropped the letter. It slid across the hardwood floor and landed near the couch. Her breath caught in her chest. She stared at the photos on the ground, grainy, cold images that should have never been taken. She backed away slowly. As if the letter might move, her hands shook. Her knees weakened. Someone had been watching her, not just in public, but inside her home, in her most private moments. Her first thought was to call the police. Her second was to call Keanu, but she didn't do either. Not yet. She stood still. In the center of her living room, staring at the letter, those words haunted her. You belong to the world now. What did that mean? Who would write something like that? She felt exposed. Like every wall in her apartment was made of glass. Like her skin had been peeled back and her soul put on display. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat curled up in the corner of her room with every light on, the curtains closed. Her phone held tightly in her hand. Her thoughts spun. Was it a fan? A stalker? A cruel joke? Around 3 a.m., she finally picked up her phone and typed one word. Keanu. He replied instantly. I'm here. She didn't write more. But a few minutes later, her doorbell rang. She didn't even ask how he got past the gate. She just opened the door. Keanu stood there, wearing a hoodie and quiet concern. Anna fell into his arms. No tears. Just the kind of hug that says, I'm scared without words. She showed him the photos. He looked at them slowly, carefully. You need to tell someone, he said gently. Anna nodded. I know. I didn't want to be a story again. Not this. Kind of story? Keanu sat with her. You're not a story. You're a person, and you deserve to be safe. Anna nodded again. Will you help me? Always. The next morning, they met with security. Then with the police, Keanu stayed beside her the whole time, quiet and steady. He didn't speak for her. He let her speak for herself. But when her voice trembled, his presence was enough to keep her standing. The officers took the letter. They asked questions. They promised to look into it. But the truth was, they didn't know where to start. Afterwards, Keanu took Anna to a quiet cabin just outside the city. Somewhere no one would follow. No press, no cameras, no flashing lights. Just trees and wind. In peace, they stayed there for a few days. Anna cooked simple meals. Keanu chopped firewood, watched old movies in silence. They didn't talk much about the letter. They didn't have to dot. Sometimes healing is quiet. On the third night, they sat on the porch under a blanket of stars. Anna leaned back and whispered, "Do you think it ever stops?" Keanu looked up at the sky. The noise, she nodded. Double quotes, "No," he said. "But we can learn to live louder than it." Anna smiled softly. "I want to go back to work, but I'm scared." "Then go scared," Keanu said. "That's how the brave do it." The next day, Anna returned to the studio. The cast clapped quietly when she entered. Not because they were told to, but because they were glad she was okay. Her courage had reached them filming. Began again. Anna's first scene back was difficult. It was a scene where her character faced public judgment. The lines felt too real, too raw. Her hands trembled again, but Keanu was there, not beside her in the frame, but off camera, watching with the same quiet care as that first night. She met his eyes once, and suddenly, the lines didn't feel like pain anymore. They felt like truth. Later that evening after wrap, she found a note in her trailer, not from the stalker. This one was handwritten by Keanu. It said, "Don't let their darkness change your light. You were born for more than fear." She folded it gently and placed it in her pocket. But just when she thought the worst was behind her, her phone rang again. No name. No number, just silence when she picked up. Then a whisper, "You can hide." "In the woods, Anna, but I still see you." Her body froze. She dropped the phone, but before she could reach for it again, there was a knock at the door. She opened it slowly. Keanu stood there, holding a small bag of groceries. He saw the look on her face and knew something was wrong. "It was him," Anna said. He called. Keanu didn't hesitate. Stepped inside, locked the door behind him, and placed the groceries down. "You're not alone," he said calmly, "and you never will be again." They decided together, no more hiding. No more. Silence. Anna would speak again. But this time, not for a role, not for the media. She would speak for herself. She sat down that night with her camera again. No script, no styling. She spoke of fear, of invasion, of healing, and of kindness. She ended the video with a line that made the world stop. "To the one watching me, I see you too, and you don't scare me anymore." The next morning, she got a message. An anonymous tip. A name, a location, pattern. Keanu read it with her. He looked her in the eyes and said, "Are you ready for this?" Anna didn't blink. Double quotes, yes. Because this time, she wouldn't freeze. This time, she'd walk forward, not alone, not scared, but stronger than ever. The step forward air was heavy that morning, not with fear, but with focus. Anna stood by the window, her eyes fixed on the quiet street outside. Cars passed, birds moved across the sky. Life went on, but today, her life would change again. Not because of what someone did to her, but because of what she chose to do. Behind her, Keanu poured coffee. He didn't say much. He knew words weren't needed right now. She already knew. What mattered? The message they received last night. The anonymous tip. It wasn't a prank. A small studio intern who had followed the news coverage had gone back through footage. Security logs. Patterns of presence. He found something. Someone who showed up again and again near the studio. Someone who didn't belong. The stalker wasn't a stranger. He was part of a third-party vendor team, a photographer hired to cover. Behind-the-scenes moments quiet, unnoticed. Until now, Anna took the information to the police that morning. Keanu by her side, they listened. They believed. They acted. By the end of the day, he was in custody, and in his backpack, Dozens of undeveloped photos, notes with her name, times, places. But more than that, a plan. He had planned to write a false story. Sell it, make it big. Make her his product, but he didn't get the chance, because she stepped forward first. When Anna walked out of the station, the press was already there. They asked questions. They shouted her name, but this time she didn't run. She turned toward them. Her voice was calm, her face steady. "Yes, it's true," she said. "Someone watched me, followed me, tried to control my story. But here's what they didn't know. I have the pen, not them." The press fell quiet, and for the first time in weeks, she felt free again. Back on set the following week, things returned to rhythm. The cameras rolled, the scripts moved forward. But something had changed. Not just in Anna, but in everyone. People were more gentle, more aware. They looked her in the eye. They saw more than a headline now. They saw a person who had survived something. They couldn't see Keanu walked onto the soundstage one morning, holding 2 coffees. He handed her one. "How's the scene today?" he asked. Anna smiled. "Heavy." He sipped his drink. "Good. Heavy scenes matter." Anna nodded. "Thank you, by the way." He looked at her gently. "For what?" "For the first day, the hand, the silence, all of it." Keanu shrugged. "You saved yourself. It just reminded you that you could." As the shoot wrapped weeks later, the crew held a small party cake. Lights, music, laughter returned. Anna stood by the edge of the room. Watching it all, her co-star approached her with a camera in hand. "Can we take a picture? Something real? Something happy." Anna nodded. As the camera flashed, Keanu stepped into the frame beside her. His hand brushed hers again. No pressure, no fear, just warmth. A reminder of the beginning. Months later, a documentary was released. It's not about a scandal. Not about rumors, but about resilience. It told the real story. Of a woman who froze in front of hundreds, but stood back up. Of a man who didn't fix her, but walked beside her. Of kindness without agenda. Of courage without shouting. Anna sat alone. In a theater at a private screening of the film, when the final scene played, the moment where she stood before cameras and said, "You don't scare me anymore," the room went silent, then applause real slow. Deep Keanu sat a few rows behind. He didn't clap. He just smiled. He knew she didn't need saving. She never did. She just needed to know she was allowed to fall. And rise outside the theater, Anna stood in the cool air, looking up at the stars. Keanu joined her quietly. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I am now. What's next?" She took a deep breath. "I don't know, but I'm not scared of it anymore." Keanu looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Good, because the world doesn't need perfect. It just needs truth." Anna smiled. "Then let's keep telling it." And they walked off together. Not as a headline, not as a rumor, but as 2 people who had survived the noise and come out brighter. Because the most powerful stories are not the ones we act, but the ones we live. And the greatest strength sometimes begins in a moment of stillness, with one trembling breath and a hand held in silence.